Hi everyone, it's Nicole and welcome to my channel. Today I am back with a 12 by 12 layout. I know it's been some time since I have done a 12 by 12 here on my channel. It's been a couple weeks, so I thought that I would jump back into that and start with this new technique that I've kind of picked up along the way from watching some other YouTubers here on YouTube. And it is using just regular saran wrap. I just tore a piece off of my roll and crinkled it up, not so much in a ball, but more like a loose bunch. And I'm using that today to apply my Distress Oxide and my inks to my background for this layout. And I love this. And the saran wrap that I'm using can be reused over and over again, so it's not necessarily just a one and done type thing. It could be easily cleaned off, wiped off with a paper towel, and reused later on. So the products that I'm using on my spread today are from 49 and Market. They are the Vintage Artistry Travel Beached line. I have the rub-on transfers, and I also have a big chunky pack of the ephemera bits. And when I say big chunky pack, this pack is stuffed full. I think it's like over 90 pieces. But it's a huge, like the biggest die cut pack I have ever seen, and so in love with it. As I am with these rub-ons, and I loved these starfish and the sailboat and the wooden pillars, and I'm trying to create a window scene using a photo from the beach trip that we just recently went on, and these pieces were perfect for what I wanted to document. So I actually took the rub-on transfers and applied them to a plain piece of white cardstock and then fussy cut them out, and this is what I got. So it's almost like another form of ephemera. It has that little bit of it's kind of glossy from that rub-on, but not the full matte like the die cuts are. And I love how this turns out. And then you can move them around and you're not stuck to them in one place. You can layer them. Then they don't become semi-transparent. It becomes more of an opaque background, so it's perfect. So my main focal point for this layout is going to be this blue window with shutters. I'm going to get a photo and actually back it behind this window. And one of the die cuts in here was the Our View of Paradise, and that was perfect. We go to the beach every year. Sometimes we get lucky enough to go more than once. And that is probably one of our favorite things to do, is to look at the ocean and watch the sunrise. And that's what I'm documenting in this project. So I am going to try to fuss around a little bit with the ephemera pieces that I do have. I will pop some up on foam dots. Others I will leave flat. But while this is coming together, I wanted to do a little bit more on my background before I started adhering everything down. And I saw these netting pieces in the rub-ons, and it's perfect. So I'm going to go ahead and use a very large one here on the bottom. My fingers were not working with me today whenever I was putting this on. I couldn't get a hold of anything for some reason. So anyways, I'm going to put that large net there on the bottom. And then there are two others that I'm going to trim out. I like to trim these out so that when I put them down, like for example, this one here, it doesn't have the blue splatters that are around the other the see on the left there, the transfer paper, it doesn't have those blue splatters around it, so I don't have to worry about accidentally transferring something onto my page yet. So I fussy cut them out so I can move them and manipulate them easier and then put those down. But I will add some of those blue splashes, because those blue splash transfers, they are almost an identical match to the Distress Oxide ink that I used, Speckled Egg. They are so close. So in the end, I do add some of those and a few others. But now that I have my netting pieces down, I kind of lay back out my design, how it's coming together in my head on how I wanted to put this. And then I'm going to go back through and do a lot of flicking again through my rub-ons, because I do end up adding some others. And I really liked these north. When I see these nautical type things, I think of due north and my husband being my north and being my ground, and our experiences in our life together. So I had to, you know, include this because also in that direction with, you know, being the Outer Banks and that type of thing. So, but yeah, eventually that's where my photo comes up. That is where we were. That's where this was taken of, was the Outer Banks. It was taken at Pine Island, and it was gorgeous. So I did use a few of those, and I did find this stencil that I have in my stash, and I am using this thick gel paste from the Crafter's Workshop. It looks white in the jar. It applies with a semi-opaque white, but it dries perfectly clear. And when it dries clear, it has a very high gloss to it. So there's going to be no color in the ends, and in the close-ups you'll be able to see it's just a high gloss, oh geez, what are those called? Compass. It'll show just as a high gloss compass on the left and the right there. And then to keep my visual triangle and my 3 points, I do add some splatters in that same paste down below over my net. But this is the photo that I was talking about. This was the view from our boardwalk that was attached to the house that we were staying at. So I'm going to use that as my photo for this spread. Now with this window, I love to mention, I wanted to add a little bit more to it, pop some things up going on here. So what I'm doing is creasing and folding the shutters so that when I glue this down to my project, I can actually take the shutter doors and lift them up off of my page just like that and tuck things in and behind them. It gives more depth, it gives more layers, it adds the bulk to it, and I love a bulky project. So I loved how that looks, and now I'm going to go ahead and start adding in all of these other die cut pieces and rub-ons that I know where I want them to go. If I'm sure of it, I'm going to go ahead and start committing, because this layout actually is coming together quite quickly. The bulk of it was probably the mixed media background, and then actually taking the transfers and rubbing them on and fussy cutting them. So that was probably the bulk of the time spent on this. But yeah, once I get all of the foam adhesive on there, I do go ahead and commit to where these are going to go. And some things I do foam adhesive, others like this star, I will actually just do a glue, and I do glue that right on the shutter. That way it helps lift that up off of the page too. And then this little anchor, I was kind of fussing with him where I wanted to go in front of behind the starfish, and then I commit to it there. So I did find a couple of tickets in 2 different colors, and it was the perfect colors of the blue and off-white, and I wanted to include those as well, so I cut off part of those, used my tiny attacher, and I'm going to add it behind that to add a little bit more texture and dimension. To kind of help pull off the top part of this spread, I thought there was a lot of dark colors down below, so I wanted to bring some of that darkness up to the top. So I do add 2 label strips there up at the top, one with the teal diagonal, and then also that dark brown to help bring that dark brown up as another 3rd point at the top. So I do find these little flip-flops, and I have to include them because when I think of the beach and every time that we go, flip-flops are definitely a part of that memory. So I do use those and add them behind that starfish. And then look at this little bird, you guys. I love it. He was on one of the transfers, and I did the same thing with it. I transferred it on there and went ahead and fussy cut. So I do find a couple other seashells in this die cut pack. I do put one down there, and then I over fuss again with my starfish, and I finally am just like, this is perfect, this is where it's going to go, we're done. However, as far as texture goes, I cannot necessarily stop with what I have done, so I am going to pull in some thread in 3 different areas in my clusters. I add one behind that starfish at the bottom there. I'll add another one here behind the tickets, and then I will also add a 3rd one over on the right-hand side behind the anchor and starfish there. When I do this, there's no rhyme or reason on how I pull my thread together. For this spread, I pulled both colors at the same time and just twisted it a little bit and then messed it up. Sometimes they get a knot, sometimes they don't, sometimes the little ends hang out, and I just let it do what it likes to do, and I just tuck it in to where I want it to go, and I just let it do its thing. And it looks, I love the look of how this is. So I am going to pull in some Distress ink. This is in tea dye. I'm going to use this to stamp my date on another one of those tags, which I will trim down and put right underneath the title of the layout, which is Our View, or Our View of Paradise, and I will tuck it in right there. I do find 2 other little starfish bits in the ephemera pack that I fussy cut out. I believe these were the pieces that popped out of another window that was included in that pack. So I fussy cut those out and added one to the left and one to the right. It was just another little perfect touch of starfish. And then to add one more bit of mixed media to this, I did pull out some dark chocolate ink from MFT. And I splattered that around my page to help pull in more of that dark color that comes out in a few of those embellishments. And then to keep everything on that same neutral color tones, I'm going to go ahead and use my brown micron pen to do my journaling, which I do add underneath the title and the date. After everything is in place and my journaling is done, I decide to go back in and use those darker teal splatters that are on the rub-on sheets. I like some of these larger ones, so I used those and some of the smaller ones to add in another layer of that splatter, another finish, because like I said before, it has that little bit of a gloss to it. So I'm going through what's the bits and pieces that are left there on that page that you can see on the left that I just grabbed, and just adding them around my page where I feel that I see that they can fit between my embellishments that are there. I do grab this page also. This one has some of the lighter tan splatters, so I'll add in a few of those as well around my page. And for the very last thing, there was this word that was seaside in that same dark chocolate. And to pull in just a little bit more of that color to make it pop, I do fussy cut that out and I add that right underneath my journaling at the bottom of the page. And that is going to call this layout done. Here are some close-up photos for you. Please remember to subscribe to my channel, hit that like button. It really helps me out. And until next time, have a wonderful day. Bye.